Hello, everybody, and welcome to Alternative Interactions. I'm Gary. Wasn't really going to do a show today. I try and do one every other day at the moment, and I do have a financial one, the predictions one that I did with my 10, ready in the wings to go out for tomorrow. Should have probably done it today, but I pushed it back a day because I wanted to do this, and putting two out in a day is normally the death of one or the other. It's the predictions one of November. So if you want to see it, it's up on the Tens channel now. Please check it out. It's very interesting. So today is a couple of sort of subjects. Would have done a babble, but outside it's a bit miserable. I don't fancy going out. And I've also got my finger uncovered today. So I want to keep it dry and secure. I'm trying to get used to the sensations. I've got some funny feelings and sensations going on with the nerves. So I just want to give it some air time, really. I mean, kind of see the area that I cut off sort of from there this way. So yeah. So I'm going to do cover various subjects on this one. It's going to be a generalized thing. Um, Couple of main ones, really. Um, and we'll get into them in a minute. So first of all, I'm going to start with the energies that are really off the charts. I've noticed that we've got some major sun solar flares coming in that could affect stuff, and I think we're all feeling that as well as the planetary stuff that's going on, all the retrograded planets and everything. It's really, really quite heavy at the moment, and we're certainly feeling it. Now, I had a very strange experience today, and it's the first time that I've actually had this experience and really felt it strongly. And I thought I'd share that with you. And that was that I was sitting on bed, kind of meditating. You know how it is. You're all comfy in the bed and you're meditating, and the noise came in through the ear, and I'm thinking, oh, that high pitched type noise. I started to feel a little bit dizzy, kind of like a bit. Ooh, I had a heart palpitation, and my heart went. Ooh, missed a couple of beats almost. It felt very strange with this noise coming in, and the noise stopped immediately. The heart went straight back to normal, and the dizziness stopped immediately. And I thought, well, that's a new one. So for me, having physical, feeling something really physical when I've got a shot with the noise that came in is quite a big one for me. I've been hearing the noises and it's been making me feel a bit, but yeah, very, very strange to have proper heart palpitations. Sat there relaxed, no dramas going on, kind of meditating it, you know, thinking about things as I do, and yeah, had the heart palpitation. So if I'm getting that, I'm sure many of you are getting very, very strange things. So don't worry about kind of physical things coming up at the moment. We really do, and we really are in amongst it. Now, something else I want to add on to this that I've noticed in myself this week for sure. I was actually talking to my friend Maggie this morning. Um, we talk about general subjects and odds and sods. And I said, "Oh my God, Maggie, I'm so clumsy at the moment. You wouldn't believe it. I've broken pots and things. I've broken all sorts of stuff, and I've noticed that my spatial awareness is wrong. So I go to put a cup down and I'm hitting another cup or all sorts of strange things going on. Really weird." And she goes, "Oh my God, Gary, I'm exactly the same. I've broken more things in this last week I have done in, months and months. So, she said, I'm so clumsy at the moment. When I pick up a glass, I go to grab it again and I'll knock it over and spill the water on the floor. And I'm just, oh my God." So I was like, thank God for that. It's just not me being clumsy and a klutz. As a child, I was extremely clumsy and I got over that. But I'm back to being clumsy again, just like I was as a child, knocking things over, stubbing my fingers and stuff. So I'm obviously being very careful with this finger. Um, but yeah, it's really, really noticeable what's going on. So I'm really feeling it and also noticing. Now, this clumsiness is very unusual, and Maggie and I were starting to talk and go down the woo way, as you can imagine. And we were wondering if we're actually going through a dimensional phase at the moment, as in vibrational frequency that's changing slightly. So the depth perception and everything else that we're experiencing going wrong, putting stuff in places we wouldn't normally, losing things, not losing things, all sorts of things going on, missing appointments. This last week or so, I never miss appointments. I never forget anything. I've missed several things, completely forgotten. And I'm having to remind myself to look at my diary and make sure I'm putting stuff in my diary to remind myself to be places or to set certain things up or to do things. I'm an absolute nightmare at the moment. I've never been like that. Never been like that. So something is really changing at the moment. It's affecting me. It's affecting Maggie. It's affecting others I know. So be a bit kind to yourself. If you're doing these things, definitely, definitely things are changing. Things phasing in and out, different dimensional frequencies or different vibrational frequencies that are affecting our reality at the moment. So, answers on a postcode to when's it going to be over and really going on would be lovely. So, so there we are with that one. Something else, I mean, kind of go back to my finger. It kind of triggers onto this. Um, I wasn't really going to talk about it too much, and I'm not really going to. I'm just going to set out the stall for my channel now. I'm getting larger and larger, which is amazing. I've 5,800 or so subscribers, and thank you very much. The, the growth has been absolutely astronomical, and I'm so pleased and grateful for all of you that support me just by watching. The likes, shares, and subscribes is just amazing. And I try not to do that kind of corporate stuff anymore in my videos because I've got the outro that my friend Paul did, and you know, hopefully the channel speaks for itself. But I had some trolls, or was trolled last week quite badly by I don't know who they were, but they even used foreign languages. But all the channels seem to have been set up within a year and used very similar emojis at the end, some of them. And they weren't particularly nice. And I've now developed a zero tolerance on anything that's obnoxious, rude, and bullying, fundamentally. None of us are here for that. Challenge me, of course. A few weeks ago, someone wrote comments saying that I was wrong about something, and I looked at it and I was wrong according to the internet. My memory is different. I spoke to other people privately, and their memory of what I'd said was correct. But on the nuts and bolts of what I'd said in today's time, I was incorrect. So thank you for calling that out. No problem whatsoever. Brilliant stuff. It was done in a nice way. Like, Gary, you're wrong on this. This never happened, and it's not the case. No problem. Brilliant. Thank you very much. But people who are being particularly nasty, rude, and obnoxious, or calling me a liar, and they did. Great. I actually had one person because when I do my walks and babbles, I record the stuff on the phone, and it inverts the image. They accused me of lying about my finger and lying about everything else I spoke about. They got zero tolerance on that, and their comment was removed, and they will no longer ever be able to comment on my channel again. Didn't stop them from watching, But as far as I'm concerned, jog on, you know. Um, I cut the end of my finger off, and I'm being told I'm lying about it. I don't understand why that would be a case. Don't want to make a big deal out of it. Just want to make sure that everyone understands that zero tolerance on my chat, on my comments, and we have a lovely, beautiful community. The Femi out there, the family that we've got are unbelievable. The support you get, and I don't need lots of comments saying, about this. It really don't. It's fine. It's fine. We don't need lots of comments about this. I want all of you to be able to comment and express questions to me or to others who write comments in the way that we have been going forward for the last 6, 7, 8 months previously. Okay, in a supportive environment where we all support each other. There's no such thing as a silly question. The only silliness would be not asking the question in the first place. Okay. And sometimes some of the questions about, I don't understand this or what is this, are the best questions because it reminds me to take a step back and to explain things in a different way. Okay. So amazing comments, amazing support. It is a minority that we're getting, and I know other channels are receiving the same kind of thing. Okay. We have a safe comment section. I make sure I'm a tyrant in that respect. I always respond to everybody as much as I can, and we'll do go above and beyond. Because for me, it's important that we have that support at such a difficult time with all these energies going through. Okay, so I won't be talking about that ever again, hopefully, but I just want everyone to understand where I stand on this and that you are in a safe environment within my comment section because I will not tolerate it. There we go. Now, there's been a few things that come up, been quite interesting recently. I mean, so much stuff. Oh, I mean, my Telegram channel, same name, Alternative Interactions. I put loads of stuff on, I think yesterday and today. Lots of interesting stuff. Lots of really interesting videos as well. More stuff than I can really, talk about. But there's a couple of things that I want to talk about, really. One of them is the COP30, which is the climate sham in Brazil. And, you know, congratulations to Donald Trump saying, recently that the climate stuff is a sham and it's total horse manure, and it certainly is. But we still have the idiots going out there. And some of the things that I find particularly difficult to swallow is that, Brazil's holding it in the Amazon, the rainforest, and to create a nice new road into the place where they're going to hold their meeting, they cut down tens of thousands of acres of prime rainforest. Are you frigging nuts? Come on, come on. I don't often swear. Come on. You're cutting trees down so you can stand there. 65 private jets, I think, something like that flew out there. 65. So these rich, entitled scumbags, the dumb elites, the deletes, can go and drive down, somebody else looking at all the tree stumps that have cut down for them in the rainforest so they can talk about how they're going to tax and take more money out of us over horse shit. No, not having it. Not having it, people. And it's a joke. I know the British government's said loads of people. I actually had difficulty trying to find out exactly how many people the UK government sent out. The figures range from 210 to 470 delegates. Was that a 5,000 mile round trip or something like that, or however many miles it is? you know, 5,000 there, 5,000 back, something, I don't know. Long way, you know, all very green, isn't it? You'd think if they were going to have a climate conference that they'd do it on Zoom, you know, hire a hall, get all the government delegates to sit there in the hall, talk to each other, and, you know, it's the age, isn't that what we have? You know? No, no. So, yeah, the climate sham continues unabated, and this kind of goes on to a couple of things that lead off to this, you know. And again, America seems to be leading the way, quite rightly, and the good old UK, you know, come on. So we're talking about geoengineering or chemtrails or climate manipulation. You know, I don't know if you're allowed to say any of those words on YouTube anymore, or if the channel will get removed, or it's all okay now because all the old channels that said stuff that was hurty, naughty, and nasty that turned out to be true have all come back. So here we go again. You're getting it today, aren't you? Again, sorry. Um, the USA has been leading the way. Donald Trump has been saying, you know, again, climate scat, you know, and we know, and we've been banging on about contrails and chemical trails for a very long time. I haven't really spoken about it too much because, you know, who knows? But in my research, I do know that for a fact that there are weather manipulation patents in the patent office. So anything that's man-made or man-controlled or man has created can be patented. You're an idea for, say, a new form of jet engine. You've designed it. There's nothing in the patents office already. You can patent your idea. And so if anybody wants to use that idea, they have to pay you money for that patent. Would be the example of a patent. Patent. Now, the first patent recorded for weather manipulation was in 1891 to make it rain. 1891. Well over 100 years ago. Here we go. I have a list of an awful lot of patents on my Telegram channel if you want to go onto there and check it out. Again, I put all sorts of extras on there that, you know, I just can't put on YouTube. Some of which I'd get kicked off for if I did. But it's very, very interesting, that patents list. And it's also interesting who owns some of the later patents of the geoengineering or weather manipulation, being Mr. Gates and co. And again, we've just seen a devastating hurricane and loss of life in various parts of the world, and it continues, earthquakes, the full works. You know, my condolences to anybody who has suffered loss or injury from, you know, from this kind of sick use of weaponization of something that should be natural, that clearly is not anymore. And probably hasn't been for a very long time, given that 1891 was the first time that they made it rain and patented it. But obviously making it rain before that, but for, you know, for what they did. Now, one of the things when I was, you know, researching and first went into this was something called Operation Popeye, connected to the Vietnam War, where the American government made it rain, I think, for 4 months solidly in Vietnam to try and flood out the Viet Cong during the war. So, you know, we have documented examples of governments using weather as a weapon, and the dumb elites and the deletes have continued this on despite it being against the Geneva Convention or whatever else it is. But as we know, these conventions absolutely mean nothing and no more than the paper they're written on, because no country is prepared to uphold that or anything else like that, because fundamentally they've all got their grubby little hands in the same pot and they're all playing the same games. Because this goes back to where we are at the moment, where we have a mono party in every country, and we have the lockstep, the Rockefeller lockstep governmental system of everybody being connected and controlled. And I truly believe that every single country has huge amounts of control in it. So, you know, and the UK is probably one of the worst. Now, as we go on to this UK government, and they're going to get a bit of a kick in as we carry on. Um, it's very interesting that the UK government has just started its geoengineering projects, even though when I go to say Chroma on the weekend, on the Saturday or Sunday, for a bit of R&R, walk along the beach, get some fresh air, fish and chips if I'm allowed. Um, the UK government has just allocated £56.8 million for spraying geoengineering to dull the sun while they're pushing the green agenda and getting everybody to buy solar panels that need the sunshine to make them work in a very dull country that doesn't get lots of sunshine anyway. I don't know. One of us is clearly missing the point, and I don't know which one that would be. But yeah, so the good old UK government. So yeah, now this kind of leads us on to the next thing I was going to talk about, which was the BBC or the media or the press. The BBC has just been caught with its pants down, and we know they're not trustworthy. Of course we do. I'm talking to the converted, but the BBC has just been caught with its pants down, manipulating the speech by Donald Trump. I think it's something like 56 minutes in between the first part of what he said, or 58 minutes to the second part of what he said, that they joined together to enact hate, in my opinion. And if anybody on YouTube or any private individual had done so, I'm pretty sure the Fort Police would be knocking on their doors and making some arrests. And we got a couple of, you know, people who just resigned. Sure, they kept their bonuses though. Pretty sure about that. So the BBC News, and it's not only the BBC, it's ITV in the UK, Channel 4, all of the newscasters. I saw recently GB News saying there's no wonder they were the best news. Obviously, I don't have a television. This is just news feed that comes across my while I'm surfing. GB News was stating how now the number one most trusted news thing, and we know they're controlled opposition as well. So, you know, you know, do you want the mass murderer or the murderer? You take your pick. They're all murderers. There we go. Obviously, this is entertainment purposes only, and it's a story, and it's all make believe. Just got to make sure we say that before I get a knock on the door. Um, I hope Donald Trump actually sues the BBC for a billion, and I hope he shuts them down. Again, I shared on my channel. Sounds like a Telegram advert today, doesn't it? But I've shared a graph of some of the main and key donators, the biggest top 10 donation organisations to the BBC in the last couple of years. And we obviously have last year Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and such like, but we also have some very large charities. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Why would a charity want to be spending huge amounts of money and giving it to the BBC? Um, we also have US aid, huge amounts of money going into there, and we know how politically um, incorrect they really are and how nefarious they have been and what they have been doing, which is connected to another company called Politico and the rabbit hole carries on. But we can quite clearly see the nefariousness of the control mechanism of what's going on with the BBC. Now, I want to, and again, I'm treading on dodgy waters here, but I'm gonna stand on the ice. I don't care. When we look at 9/11 and the horrific terrorist attack that happened on the people of the USA via their own, in the B on the BBC we had live coverage, and in that live coverage, and again, if I find the picture, I'll put it on my Telegram channel after I've done this. But on the BBC, we have the BBC reporting about World Trade Center Building 7 collapsing. That's the one that everyone forgets. But 7 is probably the most important building that collapsed, potentially. Now, the BBC reported that that building fell down a half hour or so before it actually did fall down. It just magically collapsed upon itself and fell down just like that. I think somebody had said some hurty words to it. That's why the thought police are so diligent these days because buildings fall down if they don't enforce that. Now let's be clear, I'm not the loss of life was horrific, but when a news media outlet can predict half an hour and report on half an hour before a building falls down and collapses, causing mayhem, destruction, and death, you got to be asking questions. They were reading from a script that was pre-scripted for them by the dumb elites. And that's not the worst of what they've done. They just made a mistake out there. Do you think they've not been doing that pre that? All the weather manipulation stuff that they reported on in the 80s. We were all going to die of acid rain and in the 70s and all the stuff that they've been reporting on and everything else. Social, mental manipulation and control for the government that they get the British people to pay for. And I'm aware CNN, ABC, and all the rest of them are no better. All the same, all controlled by the same handful of people. And they really are. And look, if you want, how can I put this? Look at the religious um, connection to all of these people. I'll leave it there. But The BBC has fueled illegal wars that came from the 9/11 tragedy, and it was a tragedy. They lied about so many things, so many things socially, politically. Take a MP called Andrew Bridgen, who they actually had to issue an apology for when he was speaking in Parliament because that they were doing things with the teleprompter along the bottom that they shouldn't be doing and had never done before. But the damage has been done by that time, hadn't it? Because it's all been widely reported. Um, so we have the illegal wars that they have supported, propaganda. We have social, political manipulation. And we also have the support and cover up of paedophilia to the likes you could never even imagine. Now, I'm not going to go any further on that one, but if you want to listen to a small part of what's going on, and also let's not be fair, there has been BBC presenters that have been unalived and others, I should imagine, that, I'm talking about Jill Dando here, a lady called Jill Dando, look her up, looked a bit like Princess Diana. She was going to drop a few bombshells and she was unalived on her doorstep. Mm. Mark Atwood today did a really interesting video. It's called "Is Keir Starmer Going Down?" And he talks about the government, but then goes on to the BBC and talks about things that I'm not going to talk about on my channel because I've gone far enough already, as far as I'm concerned, on that one. But Mark doesn't pull any punches, and quite rightly so. In fact, Mark had a channel taken down, I believe, he said, because of what he said and the connections he made. Not a lot of fun, this one, is it? But it is what it is. You know, we keep sugarcoating stuff, but it's not. It's a reality. And does it take our vibrational frequency down? No, it does not. Because we observe, but we do not absorb that energy. But understanding and knowing gives us power for a more informed decision and the consent that we give to whatever we do give and the removal of our consent on things that we do not agree with. So there we go. And talking about Keir Starmer, I did see, and I will repeat this again, I saw 18 months ago, maybe longer, I got a vision of him being removed, and that has not changed. But I also see all the politicians and all the political parties being removed in the future. And perhaps that will be for another show. You never know. So, after all that kind of, you know, we then go on to other things. Now, obviously, I've done the financial show with Maten yesterday. Or I put it out yesterday. We did it beginning of the week, and there's a prediction show I'm going to put out tomorrow. I know some of the predictions we're talking about cover today, the 12th and the 11th of that energy. But remember, we get the peak and then it slowly goes down. So it goes up and then we slowly get. So things that we're saying there could be issues on these around these dates a week afterwards is still within that kind of energy timeline of feelings and what's going on. Okay. But something I did want to bring up, particularly for my American viewers, is Donald Trump's talking about a 50-year or proposing a 50-year mortgage in America to help the housing market, which I don't think it will. This is a huge no. Don't do it. It's a banker's wet dream, in fact. So let me explain. The difference between a 25-year mortgage and a 50-year mortgage on the amount of interest that you would pay to save a relatively small amount of money per month, you know, would mean that you would literally pay at least over double in interest for that house that you purchased than you would from the 25-year mortgage. And so say for instance, over a 25-year period with the interest rate, you would pay $400,000 in interest. Yes, plus the price of the home that you purchased. On a 50-year mortgage, it would be close to $1 million in interest plus the house you purchased. So that's a real big for me straight away. But the other thing is that when you've got a mortgage, the bank owns your property. And I could get into the fact that you never actually own your property in the first place anyway, and it's all a scam, and we've all been taken for a ride. I've been on that boat as well, and I've been in that ride. You can say to me, Gary, well, of course I own my house. Well, you don't pay your property taxes, and you don't pay any of the taxes to the government. How long is it before the government knock on the door, drag you into court, and the judge, a corrupt judge, bangs his gavel and takes the house away, sells it for pittance, generally back to the bank or BlackRock or one of the associates, for you to pay off the fines on your own property that you spent your entire life working for? Oh dear, we really are having a show today, aren't we? Now, the other thing with a 50-year mortgage, it's exactly the same as any mortgage, but 50 years is a very long time. An awful lot of things can happen. If you had a 50-year mortgage and you're 5, 4, 3, 2 years away from that 50th year and something happened and you could no longer pay that mortgage, the bank would foreclose on your mortgage and take your house. So you had been paying your mortgage for 45 out of the 50 years, never missed a payment. You paid all that extra interest, you know, $900,000 extra by that time, $850,000 extra that time on top of the purchase price. And your friendly bank, because you can't pay, kicks you out of your house. Because you never owned it in the first place, remember? And they sell it on. And what did you work your entire life for, apart from paying the bank nearly £1 million, or dollars, sorry, $1 million? Over $750,000 you paid your entire life for the bank to live in a wooden, in a building that you never owned in the first place and never would own. I know we all need to live somewhere. I know, I get it, I get it. I'm talking about the corruption of the banking system and how even the most trusted of politicians don't fully understand the system necessarily and are just trying to come up with solutions as they're grabbing in the dark as things are collapsing upon them. And I'm talking financially here, not anything else. We are very close to a financial collapse. We're very close to the end of this enslavement via the banks, the courts, and governments. And I truly believe it's going to come. I truly believe it's going to happen. I've seen it. And I may, okay, here's it. Okay, let's have a bit of nice a break from all this, right? Okay. Um, I intend to be, or I should be doing a show with Isabella, just myself and Isabella, in a week or so's time, a couple of weeks' time. And I have got an open book on questions. Now, I want to look at and ask personally what we can expect in the future. Are we going to see the government's collapse? And I know the answer to that. And I know we've gone through that, but I want you as a collective to be able to put your mind at ease as much as possible from what's going on. Because remember, we're seeing a story, a play, a movie playing out in front of us. And this movie is not for us, even though we do get dragged into it. And we really do. But the movie is not for us. It's for the general population who walk around asleep. We just need to hold space, observe what's going on, don't absorb the energies, and continue to work on ourselves and shine our light in love. Okay. And I know I'm talking about dark stuff and I know I'm bringing up subjects that will trigger, but I do not get affected by these anymore because I understand. Now, I did get affected a few days ago with those ostriches in Canada, and I at 3 o'clock in the morning went there. A bit like Richard Cardinal does. He gets these images and he goes places and he doesn't look at that. Well, I got one of those at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm asleep, suddenly bang, I'm wide awake, and I'm there, and I saw the horror for myself, and I didn't sleep again. So from 3 o'clock in the morning, that was it. That was my night's sleep gone. And I have to say, it really upset me greatly, and it really, really did. Shame on the Canadian authorities. You'll pay for that one, I can assure you. But that is just small potatoes on what's going on. But it's not often that I astro project and get to see these things. And I was shown it for a reason, and I meditated on that and understood that this was one of the lessons I had to learn about myself and how I react again in a work. So it was a positive that I could take out of something that was so tragic and needless. So, yes, of course, we all get sucked into these things, but the 5D-ness of it all is to be able to pull ourselves out and grow from this and learn from this and develop and continue our path towards where we're going. And we are truly going somewhere amazing and special. And I'm hoping in the near future that we'll be able to demonstrate that in other ways with other people. And it's a real positive. It really is a positive. But I need to get my head round how this can be expressed, all the questions to be asked, potentially for somebody to be able to see or confirm some of these things. We're in a really good position. We are. So much going on at the moment. The energies are huge. What a ride we're having at the moment. And we really are having a ride. Okay. And it isn't easy. And yes, me included, I've had enough of the ride now. I want to get to the end of the movie. As Gordon says, we're in the last 5 minutes of the movie now. The nitty gritty, the pinch point of what happens. Oh my God, we're looking forward to that. So now I've kind of given you a little bit of a teaser for those of you who got to the end of the show. Well done. That I'll be doing a little show with Isabella in the near future. I've also got one booked up with Sonia, the Tree of Knowledge, the next day or so. And also next week, I'm doing one with Gordon, and that will be my future life regression. No, it's not a regression, is it, as such? But you know what I mean. So that is really, I'm really looking forward to that, to see what my higher self will allow me to see via Gordon's help as a hypnosis regression system to look forward into what might be. Now, I know what I'd love to see or express, but obviously higher self and the universe has different ideas, and so we'll go with the flow and accept whatever comes along. But that should be really, really good. So, some real exciting shows coming up in the near future. And again, tomorrow I'll be dropping my November forecast financial, but there's some very, very interesting planetary astrology and human design charts in there as well. That it's not just the financial, there's stuff to be picked up from that, and very interesting times indeed. So, with that, I think I've done enough promotion. You know, observe, do not absorb the energy. We've got this, it's part of the show. It's just interesting. I find what I'm talking about, I'm finding interesting. Okay. Very interesting. Because for me, all these interesting things are just little ticks and confirmations of all the things I've seen in the future. And we have to see these things play out to get to that future point. And we're headed there. So, with that, love, light, and blessings, everybody. And I'll catch up with you very soon. Bye, everyone.